Hey now, he's Bergie. I'm Booker. This is the Bergie and Booker Show. We're renaming it Big Ten Bergie and Booker Show. You got your team in there. How do you feel about Penn State before we get into some playing time and some emails?
It's probably the second least favorite team I would have wanted to get in, but I'm glad they got somebody in and they had a heck of a year. So I'm glad the Big Ten is represented, excuse me. So that's exciting. Speaking of Big Ten, I sent you that thing today that was sent to me that Maryland got its 48th Big Ten championship since it's entered the league. And the only people that have more are Michigan and Ohio State. And we only have 20 teams that participate, and those guys have 29. So that's a big deal for Maryland. We can talk about that later. But yeah, happy for the Big Ten that they got a team in.
And that's a team, Jeff Tambroni, the head coach of Penn State, he took a team that struggled mightily last year, and now they're going to championship weekend. Let's talk playing time. I know you had a scenario that evolved in your world, and I certainly, as a longtime coach and a longtime teacher, can certainly help lend some advice on it.
So with Duke being a freshman and with a lot of my friends throughout the country having freshmen or sophomores in multiple sports, but let's use lacrosse right now because it's still lacrosse season up north. We were all talking about JV versus varsity. When your kid is at that, the precipice there of what's he going to do? How much playing time is he going to get? He or she, and do you need the cachet of varsity to appease the dad and the kid? But really, JV might be dad or mom. But really, JV might be the answer for growth. So I'll throw it to you. I'll tell you my feelings after you tell me your feelings. How are your feelings on the difference between JV and varsity? And we're talking about playing time your freshman and your sophomore years, because I think it's opposite by your junior year. But go ahead.
I've been in that scenario a ton of times as a coach, as a parent, and back in the 1980s as a player. And I can tell you for certain the sophomore or the freshman, anybody who puts a freshman on varsity and then has him sit the bench is totally off base. That is you're doing the child a total disservice. So let's talk about sophomores. If you're a sophomore and you're good enough to be the 35th guy on the varsity, and all these varsity teams carry too many players. If you're good enough to be the 35th, 37th player on the varsity, or in the top 3 or 4 players on the JV, you play for the JV, because you're not going to get quality minutes in a game at all. You're not going to get any good minutes during any game, and you're going to struggle to get good minutes in practice. And a lot of parents like to say, my son's on varsity, he doesn't get much playing time, but he's practicing with those guys. Holmes, he's not really getting that much practice, because they're doing a week of preseason, then they get some scrimmages, and then it's game plan, do some scout team stuff. And if he's the 35th guy, he's not even good enough to be on the scout team or the first scout team. So he's doing the riding and clearing drills, he's doing the stick work, and then he's flipping burgers in practice. That is an absolute tragedy for a kid to want to wear the jacket that badly. They want to wear that varsity lacrosse jacket or the varsity football jacket, but really they should be scoring the game-winning goal or have the ball on their stick or being the starting quarterback on the JV team as a sophomore. Develop better, develop your leadership better. It is an absolute easy, it's a no-brainer in my position. Definitely put the kid on JV.
I think you're right in almost every scenario. The only scenario I can think of where maybe you think more towards varsity is if it is a limited roster number and he or she's going to get a lot of practice, and they are that second or third person on a smaller roster. On the rosters that we're talking about in Baltimore and Philadelphia, and I'm sure New York and Connecticut, you got 50 guys on the varsity, 50 guys on the JV, another 100 kids in the freshman program or whatever. I think, number one, confidence. You know how much confidence a kid gets from playing, from actually playing and from performing. And then you've got camaraderie of your teammates of, okay, he was the man today, and he had a game winning goal, or he had a game winning save, or he had a ground ball, and winning sort of begets winning. And if you're a great varsity coach, and I'll look at it from a football standpoint, if you're a great varsity high school football coach, you have named the JV coaches. And if you're in a public school, you've got the middle school coaches and you've named them, and everybody's working up, and you want kids playing. You want them in your system. You want them doing
Yes.
your offense, your defense, but you want them practicing it in practice, but nothing in practice is going to be like a game for freshmen and sophomores. If a sophomore is on varsity and he's holding up a drill, guess where the sophomore is going to go?
Ooh.
Out of the drill. We don't have
Yeah.
this much time. The season is going on. We're playing 1 and 2 games a week, or whatever the schedule is.
Or
So
three.
if your kid can gain confidence, but more importantly, playing time, be happy, and actually, pull their jets, and mom and dad have to do it too. And that's a big one, because it's hard for parents with egos to say he's on JV, he's having a lot of fun. In a perfect world, everybody says he's on JV, he's having a lot of fun, he's having success. We know it's not a perfect world. That's a lot of full shit for a lot of parents and for a lot of kids. Okay.
Yeah.
They want to be able to say that their kid's on varsity, that their freshman made the varsity team, or their sophomore made the varsity team. But if he's not playing or she's not playing, what's the point? I think you're going to have more kids hate the sport 14, 16 months down the line. Now, if your school doesn't have a full-fledged varsity and a full-fledged JV,
Sure.
then you're out of luck there. But you got to get the kid as much playing time as you possibly can, and hope he works into practice. The only
That's
go ahead.
I'll tell you, that's where, if you don't have that other level of good JV program, or what in the developing areas of lacrosse, that's where a good club program can really help you. If you're getting coached, you're getting developed, you're being mentored, someone's modeling the behavior that they want to see out of you, which brings me to the point of, have you read through any really stupid emails lately?
I think you're referring to the old email that was sent to us by a club coach in the DC area, right?
Yeah.
Calling his team ungrateful quitters, guys that
No, it
leave.
wasn't his team. It wasn't his team.
It was a kid on the team who transferred. Well,
Whoa. He was no, and the club coach is probably one of the best in the country at making sure that his kids understand that there's a consequence for missing a practice because finals are coming up. And if you read through that email chain, the kid reaches out to the coach and says, "Hey, I'm going to miss practice because finals are coming up." And that's where it really goes wrong. But that coach is probably doing what's best for the kid. No.
And that's
best for his pocketbook.
And that's that's where the club coaches, the good club and the good high school, and the guys that are really, really into it for the kid, the JV varsity talk. Maybe you tell the kid, "Hey, you're on the edge here. I'm going to tell you what, you're going to get more developed playing JV. So we're going to put you on JV, and then you're going to come to your club team in the summer, and it's going to be everybody in your grade, and you're going to have played a ton, going to have played 20 JV games, and these other guys are going to have sat." To use Duke's 2026 FLC team practice together, and everybody they're all freshmen, and they either all played a ton and scored like 40 goals because their high school team stunk, or they all sat and got playing time here and there on some pretty good teams. Well, guess who maybe was good the weekend when all the age groups got together? You know what I mean? It's so you've got that thing. And as far as the club coaches, saying I'm doing it for the kid. Those are guys that are on power trips that think, that think you need them more than they need you.
And the other thing about that club is this director refuses he forbids his student athletes, his lacrosse players, to try out for the All-American Showcase. It used to be Under Armour. Now New Balance is going to make it look way, way better than it's ever been. That club director refuses to allow his kids to try out for that event because he's involved in a different event where he makes another $750 or whatever he makes off them. But again, like I said originally, I'm sure he is doing what's best for the kids.
Well, I, from a parent standpoint, if another parent, and a parent, well, it's on the internet, so it's been shared. If that was our kid's club director, I think I'd have a problem with our son or daughter staying with that club.
Yeah.
I really would. We've had a couple of bad club experiences where it's been money grabs. We've left immediately.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Absolutely immediately. And not that this is a money grab. Obviously, it's a successful club. But who talks to kids like this? Who talks to seventh, eighth grade kids and parents like this? You want me to hand you 2,000, 3,000, 5,000, whatever the number is, and then you want me to spend money on travel for hotels and gas, and we try to we try to roll in 6 strong wherever we can. So I'm paying for all the kids to go somewhere, and this guy or is gonna act like this towards our kid in an email,
and then he's gonna fleece you for another thing where it's an event and it's all the same kids. When I coached club with the Rough Riders and with Loonies, we just called that practice, and it was included in the initial fee, which was Rough Riders was like $1,500 a year. Right. Loonies was probably $1,700, and they've got great coaching, great practice, great support. Talk with the parents whenever you need to talk to them. It's interesting because that's one side, and people can look up, what is it, ungrateful quitters. It's on in the internet. Like if you literally type it in, you'll get all this. And at the end of the article that they wrote about it, they said, this is why you shouldn't play lacrosse. And I take that personally because I think there's a lot of great lessons you can learn. There's a lot of great clubs. There's some clubs out there that are a little sketchy. There's another club up in Philly where this is so funny. I just heard this the other day. It's breaking news, Bergie, breaking news. The head coach was caught in an Uber with the wife of his assistant coach.
Well, that's their problem, not mine. That doesn't make him a bad coach.
What are these people doing? I never know what they're doing.
Doesn't make him a bad coach.
The meatloaf.
Yeah.
We want it. Now. I never know what she's doing.
Yeah, I think
it's a sketchy world. But we covered the playing time issue, and I go play JV, develop as much as you can.
And football, you get
hurt.
Well, football, everybody plays. Like if you've got a tweener guy, they're allowed to play a half of JV and a half of varsity. You're allowed to do that. In basketball, the JV and the varsity guys practice together because you don't have that many kids. So It's the same time. So you're getting great reps, and then you're getting into the game. So maybe the answer is don't have 200 kids involved in your high school lacrosse program so you can whittle it down a little bit. Or does that just mean you're not going to get another 100 tuitions? So that's why you have 200. A school that has 200 people in their lacrosse program, that's insane.
That's a lot.
How are people actually getting playing time? Number one, and then are part of it like a club team, like a college will have, the University of Maryland women team, and then there's a club women team.
And back to your point, there's high schools in Baltimore that I know of that have a varsity and then a high school club team that's just total fun. It's almost student. They have one student or a faculty advisor. Then they'll have a JVA, a JVB, and a fresh soft team. And that's all fine because if they're getting good experiences. And when I was the head coach at McDonough, we ran a motion offense. The JV ran the same motion offense. The fresh soft ran the same motion offense. The 8th grade A team ran the same motion offense. We had the rule middle school, you do not play zone. You're not allowed to play zone defense. I know you would win more games if you just sat back in a zone. And in college, it is about winning a little bit, but mostly it's about developing kids, helping them become the best version of themselves and not berating them over emails because they want to go study for their finals.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. But the 200 people on a high school team, basically through the ranks. I mean, high school
High school
football teams,
program.
yeah, high school football teams don't have that, and
I know.
they're playing a lot more guys. They're playing a lot more
Oh
guys.
yeah. Oh yeah. We'll get into more of that. He's Bergie. I'm Booker. We do what we do. We do it pretty well. Godspeed.
Cheers.